In today's video, I want to take a look at some interesting comments from Worldwide Studios president Shuhei Yoshida to Famitsu. He talked a little bit about Ghost of Tsushima, and that's a game we haven't heard a lot about recently. We saw that big gameplay debut back at E3, but they've been quiet on that for a while, which honestly I kind of prefer. If you don't have anything substantial to show off, like a release date, I don't need to see a lot of gameplay without that. However, Yoshida did talk a little bit about that, and I do want to give my input on that. Borderlands 3's first free in-game event brings a spooky twist to PlayStation 4 next month, and Insurgency Sandstorm is finally going to be hitting consoles early in 2020, so that's pretty exciting. That's a great first-person shooter on PC, now makes the transition to the PlayStation 4. First up, I do want to talk a little bit about Ghost of Tsushima because this is a game with limitless potential. Obviously, it's coming from the guys over at Sucker Punch, and Sucker Punch is one of my favorite first-party studios that Sony has. I know Sony always gets a lot of credit for, say, Naughty Dog or Sony Santa Monica, but man, Sucker Punch has been fantastic. I know Infamous Second Son wasn't up everyone's alley. I liked the game, and it did seem like that game was a little bit rushed to be released early on in the PlayStation 4's life as a major open-world exclusive, but look at the games they put out behind that. Infamous 1 and Infamous 2 were tremendous games, the Sly Cooper titles were fantastic, and Ghost of Tsushima is shaping up to be incredible, and one of the talking points of Ghost of Tsushima has to be the visuals. I mean, when I showed this game to my non-super into gaming friends, I showed them the entirety of E3 2018 pretty much and all of the big games. I remember showing them all of the major titles, and the game that really stuck out the most was Ghost of Tsushima, and it's easy to see why. Right away, the incredible visuals, the great scenery, it's absolutely jaw-dropping. And speaking with Famitsu Magazine, Worldwide Studios president Shuhei Yoshida kind of shared those sentiments, admitting that each time he has played the title, he is, quote, overwhelmed by the graphics, and noted, quote, when I play it, it's so beautiful that my hands stop, he said, as translated by the PlayStation Bros. There are many scenes that make Japanese scenery 1.2 times more beautiful, so 20% better than actual Japanese scenery. So I think that's a pretty good notion to attach to the game. I've always been of the mindset that Ghost of Tsushima is definitely going to end up being a cross-generation title. The PlayStation 4 has put out some visually impressive games, but a game like Ghost of Tsushima, I am incredibly interested to see how this game not runs on the PlayStation 4 Pro, but the base PlayStation 4, because I find it very hard to believe that the game that we saw at E3 2018 is gonna look like that on the base PS4 and play like that, but who knows? These developers these days are becoming wizards in terms of optimizing games and getting them running on hardware. I mean, at this point, we're getting The Witcher 3 running on the Nintendo Switch. Like, anything is possible, but Ghost of Tsushima is one of those games that visually is next level, and I think it would pay dividends if this game was released on the PlayStation 5, and I do think it will be. I don't think that's exclusive to Ghost of Tsushima either. I think Last of Us Part 2 will see a PS5 release. I think Death Stranding is going to see a PS5 release, because why not? Why not take the shackles completely off? And there's going to be that audience that is going to double dip on these games, and if you can make additional revenue, look, make that revenue. I know that PlayStation 5 is going to have backwards compatibility with all PlayStation 4 titles, but I find it hard to believe that these developers and publishers are going to get off the remaster train when they can sell you games multiple times. I doubt that they're just going to offer you free updates to make these games look better on the PS5. Hey, if that happens, fantastic, but strictly assessing it from a business standpoint, I just don't think that is going to happen. Nonetheless, Ghost of Tsushima is a game that I am excited to hear more about. However, we know that Death Stranding is coming out on November 8th. We know that the big Last of Us Part 2 reveal is going to happen in just a few days. Ghost of Tsushima is probably a game that's going to come out after that, and I could very well see Ghost of Tsushima being a game that's scheduled for fall 2020, and it just being released on the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 side by side. I don't think you could cancel the PS4 version at this point because people are expecting to play the game on the PlayStation 4, but if you want to say that this game is running at 4K, smoother frame rate, whatever the case may be on the PlayStation 5, I think that's fine, and that's something we've seen in the past. So I don't think that's going to be a big deal. I mean, we saw that with a bunch of games on the release on the PlayStation 4. Some of the biggest games on the launch of the PS4 were games that were already released on the PS3. Games like Assassin's Creed 4, Battlefield 4, Call of Duty Ghosts. Could very well see Ghost of Tsushima fitting into that category as well, but I would not recommend them to do a significant drop on all of these PS4 on PS5 games. Don't put out The Last of Us Part 2 remastered, Death Stranding remastered, and Ghost of Tsushima remastered all on the same day. You gotta space those out because remasters flooding the market, I just think that would be a bit much, but nonetheless, there's my 2 cents on Ghost of Tsushima, and I imagine that we're gonna hear more about this game early 2020. Honestly, I wouldn't be all too surprised if this is the game that we get a big info drop come the presentation of the PlayStation 5, and and they announce a lot of information about Ghost of Tsushima to go alongside that. Just my 2 cents on that. Alright, moving on from that, Borderlands 3's first free in-game event is bringing a spooky twist to PlayStation 4 next month. Obviously, next month is Halloween, so this goes hand in hand pretty well. It was noted that this Halloween-themed event brings with it a new mission, another boss fight, and an all-new map to explore. It'll only be around for just over a month, but should you invest the time and effort, you'll be rewarded with 2 new weapons and a handful of new cosmetic items. Good to see that Gearbox is throwing out some free updates for Borderlands 3. Obviously, there is going to be some paid DLC, and with Borderlands 3, I could easily see this being another game, not to stick to that PlayStation 5 remaster train, but Borderlands Handsome Collection happened. I could easily see a Borderlands 3 Definitive Edition with all of the DLC being released on the PlayStation 5. As far as Borderlands 3 as a game goes, I haven't really talked about it much, but I kind of have to be in line with what the majority of people are saying. It's more Borderlands, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. We didn't get a fundamental new Borderlands game this generation, so just getting more Borderlands that's bigger and badder than ever, that's absolutely fine. And I thought it turned out to be a pretty good game. We'll see how the updates roll out, we'll see how the DLC turns out, but in terms of content, there's a lot to do in Borderlands 3, and I would say it's one of those games that is worth your $59.99. Amidst all the controversy surrounding it, I do think that the foundation of the game is quite good. And lastly, I do want to give you guys a heads up on Insurgency Sandstorm. It was revealed that it is finally going to be hitting consoles in 2020. This is incredibly exciting because Insurgency Sandstorm was an awesome game on PC, still persists to be an awesome game. If you're into tactical shooters, this is one that is really, really good. I had a great time with it on PC. And it was noted that production for console serves as the biggest concern for New World when considering the ports. Quote, given the studio's history, we didn't have a lot of pre-existing experience internally relating to console porting, optimization, navigating consoles, TRC, technical requirement checklists, etc. But it looks like they got a lot of those issues ironed out, and console players who grab Insurgency Sandstorm at release will receive extra content and a console-exclusive map that will remain exclusive for about 2 weeks. The port does, however, mean that some of the content planned for the title has been pushed back to a later date. Insurgency Sandstorm was received relatively well on PC, getting a 78 on Metacritic, and the game itself is a team-based tactical first-person shooter based on lethal close-quarters combat and objective-oriented multiplayer gameplay. Experience the intensity of modern combat where skill is rewarded and teamwork wins the fight. Recent reviews on Steam are a little bit mixed. I don't know necessarily why that is the case. I haven't played it in a little bit on PC, but all-time reviews, and that's 23,092 reviews, 79% positive, so that is pretty good. And they do always have roadmaps for more content. They have a free content roadmap on PC from July to December, and they're adding things like new maps, PvP frontline and co-op outpost modes, night versions of maps, new weapons and upgrades, hardcore rule set for all modes, level editor, and mod tools. Obviously, that's going to be a PC-oriented thing, and character customization elements as well. But it's one of the more popular shooters on PC. Obviously, it's more so of a realistic shooter and a hardcore shooter, so if you're familiar with games like Call of Duty and shooters that do hold your hand a little bit, Insurgency is going to be a little bit of a different flavor, but I think that's absolutely fine. You want variety in the multiplayer offerings on the PlayStation 4, and Insurgency Sandstorm is definitely going to offer that when it does drop in early 2020. Don't have an exact release date at this point, but another game to pile on to the early 2020 Sandstorm. You see what I did there, but it should be a pretty good one, and it should be priced accordingly. This released at $30 on PC, so it's not going to be a full price $60 release, so it should be palatable as you try to stifle through all of the games that are coming out later this year and early next year. Whenever a game is released at a budget price point, I can always appreciate that. And that's going to conclude this video. Again, the PlayStation boss has been seemingly floored by Ghost of Tsushima's visuals. It's going to be an incredible game from a visual standpoint, but I wonder, how is it going to look on the base PS4? How is it going to look on the PlayStation 4 Pro? And is this a game we're going to see a release on the PlayStation 5? I could very well see that coming to fruition. Borderlands 3's first free in-game event is bringing a spooky twist for Halloween, some new content being added for free. Borderlands 3 has been pretty good. If you want more Borderlands, I would give it a shout. And Insurgency Sandstorm, the tactical first-person shooter, is finally hitting consoles sometime in early 2020. No exact release date at this point, but that is a game you should definitely have on your radar if you do want an interesting and compelling multiplayer title to play with a couple of friends, because that's definitely when the game's quality is accentuated the most. If you do have a couple of friends to play with, again, it's very much based on tactics, teamworks, and things like that. If you're going in solo, I don't think you're going to have the best time as you would have if you were, say, playing with a couple of friends. That's going to conclude this video. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.